everybody, Russell here again. So today I'll walk you through step by step on how to remove your subtrans from a 4-seater Talon. So the 1000 X4 or the 1000 R4. It'll be the same process. So right here is the subtrans itself, and it took me about 3 hours to get it out, but I was also taking videos the whole time. Once you've done it a few times, it's a pretty easy process. So if you have any questions, let me know, and thanks again for watching. All right, so we're going to start with removing the lower seat cushion, disconnecting the heated seats if you have them like I do. Okay, then you have a 6mm Allen bolt, 2 in the front, a 12mm a nut, 2 in the rear, and then we're going to lift the seat out on both sides. Once you get the seat out, you're going to remove all of these push rivets to remove this panel. So we'll take the fuse cover off, and then all of the push rivets holding the center console in, and unplug the power outlet. Once you have all those push rivets moved out, this will come out in one big piece. Center console, so just make sure you undo the power supply there to that outlet. So we will pull this out. Okay, then all of these, once you undo all those push rivets, this will come out as one piece. All right, next we'll remove this plastic piece so we can remove the gas tank. So there's going to be some push rivets here along, let's see, there's one hiding over there. Of course, we already removed the 2 down there. Okay, down here, there's, in the hole, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then 2 up front underneath, 5mm Allen bolts. So there will be 5mm Allen bolts that have to be removed. And once all of that is disconnected, remove the gas cap, and you'll pull out this whole piece, and it can be a real pain in the butt. You kind of have to bend and flex and pull it out. Okay, once you get that floorboard piece out, which is a huge pain in, you'll have to bend, flex, pull to get that floorboard out. Then we'll move to, you got 2 12mm bolts there. So take the nuts off, slide the bolts out. Then you have, and so keep in mind, this is a 12-gallon trail tank. So if you have the stock 7-gallon black one, it'll be the same process. Okay, and then you'll have 3 10mm bolts right there. So 1 is there, 1 is there, and 1 is over there. So you'll take those out. Then you'll remove the fuel supply, fuel pump power, and the breather line there for the pump. So, and then you'll lift, once those 2 bolts are out, you'll lift this bar up and slide it forward. And to make this a little easier, if possible, if your fuel tank is close to empty, it's a lot easier pulling it out than if you have the 7 or 8 gallons in there, or the 12-gallon in there. To disconnect the fuel line, what we're going to do is kind of lift up on this rubber piece, pull it forward like that, and then squeeze those tabs in and push the line back. Bam, just like that. So that's how that works. That rubber piece is a safety mechanism so that it can't spread open to disconnect. All right, once you have everything disconnected, we're gonna lift up this pipe right here, pull it forward, kind of pry it onto the front side. My tank is near empty, so let's see, I'm gonna take out these spacers. So we got the three bolts, and this is just for the aftermarket tank. So those are spacers so it fits in there properly. So I'm gonna just keep these in order, set them down here out of the way. Pull out this one as well. Okay, once you have those 3 bolts out, then we're going to lift out, which the stock tank is a little bit easier to get out than this bigger truck tank. remove the tank. All right, our next steps is to remove this hoop here. So there will be 2 bolts on this side and only 1 on the back side. And then we have to disconnect the carrier bearing, which is right there. And there's 2 bolts, 1 on the right-hand side that you can see, and then 1 on the left-hand side of the drive shaft. Next, we're moving to the front of the Talon. So we're gonna take off the front bumper, which consists of 2 bolts right there. 1 bolt down there on the bottom. Remove the winch cables if you have it. And then there's a bolt there and a bolt there to get the front bumper off. All right, once you get your front bumper off, then there's a bolt going across the bottom here and the bolt going across the top, which is 14 millimeter on both sides. So you kind of access it with the socket and extension right there through the A-arm to loosen that. Once you get those 2 front ones done, right there is the 3rd one. You'll pull that bolt out, and those are the 3 bolts holding the front differential. Once you do that, right here is the speed sensor cable. So there's that little blue clip. I don't know, maybe I can zoom in. Right there, you'll squeeze on the bottom side of that clip, and then squeeze right there on the bottom, and then that will pop up. And then there's another one just out of sight back there. So you have to undo both of those clips before pulling the front diff forward. Otherwise, it'll stretch that cable, and when you put it back together, your I4-wheel drive light will come on. All right, so once you got those bolts out, I kind of put a ratchet strap around it, around the inside of the boot so I don't damage the boot. And then see, just right there against the metal, I kind of pried up and gently ratchet strapped that tight so it pulls the front differential towards the front. Once you pull that front differential far enough forward, then it's still going to be difficult getting the driveline off of the Subtrans. Okay, once you do have that off, then we're going to remove the gear shifter. So we'll take out those 2 10 millimeter bolts. And then there's a cotter pin right there. We're going to remove that. Once you have the shift cable completely removed, we're also going to remove, let's see if I can focus there, remove right there that 10 millimeter bolt and pull that off. And then the next step is we're going to remove the rear section of the skid plate. Before removing the skid plate, I'm just going to jack the rear end all the way up until the tires are off, let it back down, and that'll give you an extra 8 or 10 inches of clearance to work underneath to take the skid plate off and to drop the Subtrans out of the bottom. So now I'm just going to remove the jack, pull it back out, pull the skid plate off. Okay, so it's really hard to see from inside the car because of all the wiring and everything in the way. So here's the service manual, okay? So here's the front side of the Subtrans. Okay, so we're gonna have 2 long bolts. So see the long bolt goes in this hole here and this hole here. So we're gonna remove those. Okay, and then there's 2 studs over here on the far right that we're gonna have to put a double nut on the end of that, tighten those up, and then back those 2 long studs out. And then from underneath and from the bottom side of the car, we're going to take out these 3 bolts. So you'll see 2 are 1 length and 1 is a little bit shorter. Okay, once we get that out, there's going to be 3 dowel pins. So we want to make sure that those 3 dowel pins stay in. And then there's going to be the damper right there that's going to connect the engine to the Subtrans. So we will also leave that on the engine. All right, so right here on the top, we're going to take the breather hose off. That's the top of the Subtrans. We'll pull that off. There's just a little pinch clamp on there. Okay, so there it is, removed. Okay, and then it's kind of hard to see. So here's one of the long bolts I already loosened up. There's 1 long bolt, and then right here on the back, right there is the other long bolt that we'll just pull out. And then right here behind the wiring harness, right there, so we're going to remove that nut and then put a double nut on it to pull that stud out. And then the other one is right there. So remove that nut, put a double nut on it, and twist it out. All right, so this is what the stud looks like. That goes all the way through the subtrans. I put 2 double nuts on there, tightened them up really tight, and then just backed out the stud. So I'm just gonna leave those double nuts on there, put 2 more nuts on the other stud, pull it out, pull all 5 bolts, and then your subtrans is ready to drop out. All right, so we're down underneath. Let's see if I can get this to focus. So we're going to remove this bolt, and one more right up there to the left of the rear drive shaft. So right there. Okay, I have the 2 studs, the 2 bolts I removed on the top, so we'll remove these 4. But before I do remove this, you do want to make sure that all of the oil is out of the subtrans before you drop it. So make sure you drain it before you drop the subtrans out. All right, so we have all the bolts free. There's actually a gap right here. Now I've slid it forward about a 1/2 inch there. All right, so this, your rear drive line needs to slide off of the subtrans here. There's a spring inside of here, but I'm gonna try and pull the subtrans backwards and then hold the drive line in place so it doesn't slide off. So it doesn't slide forward off of the rear differential or separate right here. All right, so we got the subtrans out. We're gonna pull the damper and put this back on the engine. Okay, and then I'm gonna make sure all 3 pins, so 1 dowel pin stayed in the motor, so right there. So there's a total of 3. 1 stayed in the motor, 2 stayed in the subtrans, so I'm gonna pull those back out, put them in the engine. I forgot to mention in the video previously, make sure you unplug the wire as well before you drop the subtrans out. I just had the oil pan sitting underneath, and from the top I slid the subtrans forward, got the rear driveline off, and then I just set it down from the top side, set it down onto the oil pan here. All right, so here's the engine side. We got the dowel pin in, 1, 2, 3 over there. Got the damper slid back into place, the gasket's on there. So for reassembly, in the service manual, it calls for some silicone that goes on that gasket. So when reinstalling it, here's the sealant that they're calling for. There we go. And here's the locations that they're having you put a little bit of sealant on the gasket. So when reinstalling it, they're telling you to apply engine oil to the bolts and nuts, and to torque them down to 20 right there. So also over here, so those ones are 21. So that's everything to get the subtrans back in. So just reverse steps. So once everything is back together, I will be filling it with GN4 Honda motor oil, which is recommended. So I know there's a lot of people out there say run gear oil in there. So here's my opinion on it. Honda spends millions and millions and millions of dollars on R&D, and so in my personal experience, I have roughly 20,000 miles in a Honda Talon. I put 11,000 miles on my 2-seater. I only ran GN4. And then in my 4-seater, I jumped on the bandwagon, put the 7590 Royal Purple in there, and I went through 2 subtrans in the 9,000 miles. So so if somebody's recommending something, just ask them what type of R&D have they done. Do they have 30 different Talons that they put 20,000 miles on them to make sure that the 7590 is going to hold up like Honda did when they said put 1030 in it? So Do whatever you want. I'm going to trust the R&D and the millions of dollars that Honda's invested, and I'm putting the 1030 GM4 in my subtrans, which it takes approximately 1.3. If it's a complete rebuild like this will be, it's probably going to be a little bit more, so just make sure it's full when it's done. Again, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions.